what Ted surmises, and look, Ted is as a brilliant of a mind in analyzing the COMEX and the goings on in the COMEX as anyone I've ever encountered. I read his article religiously and use it to formulate a lot of my own thoughts. His premise, however, is that 90% or 80+% of that silver that they have accumulated has been done so in less than transparent ways, in a very opaque way, whether it be through buying millions and millions and millions of American Eagles and Canadian Maple Leafs in the years that the Mint was making 40 and 50 million ounces a year. And I wondered who the hell is buying all of this silver. Ted's thought was that was entities like JP Morgan buying them, actually melting them down into 1,000-ounce bars and stuffing them away somewhere. Look, JP Morgan paid a $20 million fine for suppressing the metals market. They are very adept at playing the paper game. And if you look at what we see, it's many, many times less than what he says they have. And this is why he goes into great detail and very eloquently as to how they've accumulated it and in what form it is. My true feeling on all of this, Dunnigan, is that if they really wanted to play that game, they would not have gone to such overt lengths to accumulate physical, and to do it in a very opaque way, in a clandestine way, because I think what that really speaks to is the ultimate value of the physical commodity. And I think people should take note here that we're all too indoctrinated into believing that paper instruments and derivatives are akin to the real thing. They're not. And if indeed JP Morgan has accumulated such a massive stockpile, which I believe they have, I think it's of greater purpose. Now, some might say JP Morgan actually is doing this as an agent of someone else. Could it be as an agent of the Fed? Could it be that's why, after manipulating the market the way they did, that sent 2 or 3 of their fall guys to prison for doing so, that they only received a $920 million fine, yet that year, that same gold desk that was confirmed manipulating the market was allowed to make $1 billion in profit, minus the 920, they walked away $80 million richer? Could it be that's why they're still allowed to be the administrator of the world's largest silver trust, SLV, and many others, 3 or 4 or 5 other ETFs around the world they are involved with? There's a fine line between conspiracy and reality. It's a fair question. If they had 1 billion ounces in their vault on the COMEX, which they don't, I might be more inclined to believe that this is purely a profit play. I don't think that's what it is. I think JP Morgan understands that this is the value proposition of a generation, Dunnigan. I really do believe that. There are very few things, and I try to be objective. If you want to be successful in business, you have to be objective. You cannot be subjective and only believe your own story. You have to, it's like swimming, and you have to pick your head up and see where you're going sometimes. You can't just swim. And I think what I'm getting at here is that I really do believe that JP Morgan understands, as maybe the most sophisticated yet nefarious group of traders on the planet, I do believe they understand that silver, more so than gold even, is the value play of a generation. And it's an asset that is depleting so rapidly in nature, yet so needed in industrial applications, not just its monetary explosion, that this is how they do it. By suppressing the price, by suppressing the narrative, and by accumulating the physical. And God bless people like Bill Murphy, like Chris Powell, like Ted Butler, like all of the people out there, Chris Marcus, yourself, everyone out there who has yelled and screamed about what is happening, all the guests you have on your show about what is happening. Maybe that's the reason, ultimately, because they were getting so much heat at the CFTC that they gave them kind of a weak slap on the wrist. Yeah, $920 million is not weak, But when you realize the desk that was confirmed guilty made an extra $80 million after paying their fine, a company that makes $1 billion a month in profit, that is still allowed to be the administrator of the world's largest silver trust, that maybe that fine line between conspiracy and reality isn't so fine after all. Maybe when you realize that the U.S. government exhausted the strategic stockpile of silver, kind of like Biden is doing with the oil strategic stockpile, again relinquishing more, 25 million barrels or whatever it is, to offset the decrease in what Russia is doing at half a million a day. It's all, I think, possibly a play by the U.S. to accumulate silver, to replenish their silver stockpile, and maybe they're using J.P. Morgan as an instrument of this, as a tool to help them do this. Could it be that? Yeah, maybe not. Maybe they're doing it on behalf of the Chinese government. Why do I say this? Because when Blythe Masters, who ran their desk, was asked about this years ago, she said, the silver's not ours. We're accumulating on behalf of a client. Who is that client? Was she telling the truth? Was she perjuring herself? I don't know. All I can simply say to you is that I think that J.P. Morgan would have done it in a different manner if it was simply to make profit and then someday shed that profit. They wouldn't go to the great lengths to hide the acquisition of it, to suppress the price enough to pay a massive fine. And I just think that this is bigger than the question that is being asked in a very straightforward manner. This isn't just about making money and then shedding the position and going somewhere else. I think this is about accumulation of a vital asset, a strategic element that is disappearing in nature, that is being accumulated massively in an expansion of uses industrially, and has experienced a renaissance monetarily. I don't think this is just black and white. I think this goes a lot deeper. And for a country to have exhausted the stockpile of silver that is so vitally important in everything from warfare to solar panels and battery and everything in between, this is a lot deeper than that. And I don't think they'll be shedding that silver anytime soon to make a dollar profit. When the music stops, all the dollars in the world won't pry out silver from the hands of the people in the East, who, like India, who have accumulated 304 million ounces, 10 times the amount of silver that's backing the COMEX registered category. This is a lot deeper than that, in my opinion.